We begin tonight with the latest on windstorm insurance rates here in Texas. As we've reported, TWIA, the Texas Windstorm Insurance Association, has proposed a rate increase of 10%.
That's right. That would affect just homeowners in the coastal counties of Texas, and state lawmakers representing those homeowners are basically crying foul. They say it's not fair. And now today, Governor Greg Abbott stepped into the fray and said he will move to delay any increase till at least June of next year.
Our Michelle Pedraza is out live tonight in Rockport with details on this top story. Michelle.
Well, Joe McKenzie, in Governor Abbott's letter, he stated that the decision to approve or disapprove the proposed rate was supposed to be made on October 15th, or else the decision would be considered approved. So today, Abbott made the decision to suspend it in order for lawmakers to discuss the issue. Abbott said that the 10% rate increase that TWIA was asking for would harm the recovery efforts in wake of Hurricane Harvey. The delay gives lawmakers a chance to be able to look it over and come up with proposals for next year. They will be meeting in January and will have until June of next year to come up with a workable plan for TWIA. And State Representative Todd Hunter says this decision is a direct result of rallies and petition drives held right here in the Coastal Bend.
We're going to have to get to work. We're going to have to get the 14 counties together, come up with some proposals, and start working on some legislation to involve both legislative bodies, the Senate and the House, and the governor's office. But I think it's a good idea because now what it's going to be, it's going to be people involved in the system, not a bunch of out-of-state insurance corporations.
The governor will suspend any request to increase rates or revisit it in June of 2019. Nothing is going to be approved this year, so homeowners who have TWIA will keep the same rate as they did last year. And again, legislature has until June of 2019 to come up with a plan that is workable for the entire state of Texas. For now, live in Rockport, Fulton, Michelle Pedraza, 3 News.
Okay, so a delay in place for now. Thank you, Michelle.